Children, before I begin, remember this. The deepest wounds are not carved by strangers, but by the hands we once held while they learned to walk. And on the day my son married the wrong woman, I learned just how much a mother's heart can break. Children, I still remember the sky that morning, blue, proud, shining like it wanted to bless the day my boy would start his new life. I woke early, like I always do. I ironed my dress twice, polished my shoes, and took the time to braid my hair the way his father used to admire. I wanted to look strong. I wanted to look like a mother he could be proud of. The ranch was alive with people, 200 guests, maybe more. Cars lined the dusty road all the way down to the old wooden fence. They decorated the barn with white roses, fairy lights, linen tablecloths. The place looked beautiful, a kind of beauty you only get by burning half your savings and half your sanity. But I didn't care. My son was getting married, and I was ready to welcome a new daughter-in-law. But the moment I walked into the courtyard, I felt it, eyes on me, not warm ones, cold. Judging, whispering. Olivia, his fiancée, stood near the gazebo, wrapped in lace and arrogance. She looked like a woman who believed the world bent for her. And standing beside her, my son, my boy, the same boy whose tiny hands once held my fingers to learn how to walk. His smile faded when he saw me. I don't think I'll ever forget that. He walked toward me, jaw tight, shoulders stiff. Not a hug. Not a mom, you made it. Just tension. Just embarrassment. Get out, Mom, he hissed, low enough that only I could hear. Olivia doesn't want you here. You make her nervous. My body, children. It went cold, like someone had poured ice water down my spine. I stared at him. My own son. The child I raised alone after his father died. The child whose every birthday I saved up for. The child whose late-night fevers I comforted with the sound of my heartbeat. You're asking your mother to leave. Your wedding? I whispered. He looked away. The guests watched. Some pretended not to. Others stared openly, pity mixed with curiosity. I felt my dignity slipping like sand in my palm. My throat tightened, but I didn't let tears fall. His father raised a strong woman. And strong women sometimes bleed inside quietly. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I didn't cause a scene. I walked away slowly, each step heavier than the last. I only sat at the kitchen table, hands folded, staring at the wooden surface, feeling the silence. A mother's silence is the loudest pain in the world. Hours passed. The wedding ended without me. My phone stayed silent. Not a single message. Not a single apology, but I didn't know that the real betrayal was coming, that the coldness at the wedding was only the beginning, that Olivia had something far darker planned, something that would split my son's life in two and drag mine with it. Children, that night I didn't cry, but the next morning, when the phone finally rang, I learned the real reason they wanted me gone, and that is where the storm truly began. The night air outside the wedding hall was colder than I remembered. Maybe it wasn't the air. Maybe it was just me. My legs felt stiff, not from age, but from shock, as if every step I took away from that place was peeling something off my heart. I walked toward my truck, that old brown pickup my husband bought when our son was 10. He said one day our boy would drive it, repair it, make it his own. Funny thing is, that truck outlived everything except my memories. I reached for the door handle, and my hand shook so much I had to grip it twice. The music from the wedding drifted behind me. Soft laughter, clinking glasses, people dancing, celebrating a future I was suddenly no longer welcome in. They had told me to leave, my own son, and all I could hear in my head was his voice, echoing like I was standing in a canyon. Mom, you make Olivia nervous. Please, just go. Just go. Those two words crawled under my skin like thorns. I climbed into the truck and closed the door. The silence inside was immediate, heavy, absolute, like being sealed in a tomb. I placed my hands on the steering wheel, but I didn't start the engine. Not yet. I just stared straight ahead, trying to feel something. Anything. But all I felt was a strange emptiness, as if someone had scooped out the inside of my chest and left nothing but hollow air. I whispered to myself. Just breathe. Just breathe. But even breathing hurt. I finally turned the key. The truck rattled awake, old but loyal, more loyal than the child I had raised. The headlights cut through the dirt road as I pulled away from the ranch. From the music, from the people who were supposed to be family. The farther I drove, the more the silence inside the truck grew. It wasn't peaceful silence. This was the kind of silence that screams. You know, a mother carries her child for 9 months, but she carries the fear of losing them her whole life. That night I felt something break, quietly, like the soft snap of a thin branch. Not loud, not dramatic, but final. As I drove down the long dirt road, dust lifting behind me like ghosts of old memories, I kept seeing flashes of him, my son, at 5 years old, running barefoot across that same road, laughing, calling, "Mom, look at me," his tiny hands grabbing my skirt, his little arms hugging my neck. Where did that boy go? When did he forget me? When did I stop being his mother and start being an inconvenience? The truck vibrated as I drove past the wooden fence my husband and I built together. Post by post, I could still picture him sweating under the sun, smiling that bright, confident smile he always had when he was building something with his own hands. The ranch, the land, the home, it was all built on sacrifice, on love, on our dreams for our boy, and now I was being pushed off it like a stranger. A sharp pain rose in my throat, but I swallowed it. Tears tried to come, but my eyes stayed dry. Isn't that strange? Sometimes the deepest pain refuses to show itself. It stays buried, like it's too sacred to spill. Halfway home, I slowed down. The moon was full, hanging low and heavy, lighting up the dirt road in a cold, silver kind of sadness. I whispered. He didn't even look ashamed. And that was the part that struck hardest. He didn't look torn. He didn't look conflicted. He didn't even look back at me. It was as if I had already been erased from his life. Quietly, piece by piece, until I was just an old woman who made his bride uncomfortable. The rest of the drive felt endless. The sound of the engine became a steady heartbeat. My heartbeat. Strong outside, crumbling inside. Every mile I drove felt like a step further from the son I thought I knew. When I reached my house, the little cabin behind the ranch, I parked in the same spot I always did. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. You ever held on to something so tight, not because you're strong, but because you don't know what else to do? That was me, holding on to that steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. I finally let go. When I stepped out of the truck, the night seemed too quiet, the kind of quiet that feels wrong. I walked inside my empty living room. No lights on, no warmth, just the faint smell of cedar wood and old memories. I sat on the edge of my bed. My knees hurt, my back ached, my heart felt like it had been cut open and stitched back wrong. I wanted to cry. I needed to cry, but the tears never came. I just sat there, alone, in a silence so deep it felt like the whole world had stopped breathing. And that's when the truth hit me. My son hadn't just pushed me out of his wedding. He had pushed me out of his life. And I, foolish, hopeful, loving me, hadn't even seen it happening. Not until that silent drive home. My child, if you've ever felt your heart fall straight through your ribs, if you've ever tasted fear and betrayal at the same time, then you will understand what happened the morning after the wedding. I woke up before sunrise, the way I always had on the ranch. Old habits don't leave you, even when your children do. The house was quiet, too quiet. Usually the mornings were full of life. The cows would cry for feeding. The roosters would crow far louder than they needed to, and my husband, he would already be sitting on the porch steps, polishing his boots with that little half-smile of his. But that morning, only silence greeted me. The wedding still sat heavy in my bones. The whispers, the stares, the moment my own son, my only child, told me to leave the ranch. My ranch. His father's ranch. I made a cup of tea, but I couldn't drink it. My hands shook too badly. I kept replaying it in my mind. His eyes, full of embarrassment, not love. His bride, Olivia, with that tight, fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her hand squeezing his arm, telling him silently, "Choose." And he did. But I told myself, it's the wedding. Emotions are high. He'll come home. He'll apologize. It'll pass. Oh, how mothers cling to hope even when the knife is already in their back. I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the cold tea, when the phone rang. The dull, sharp sound felt like it split the quiet room in two. I hesitated. Something in my chest tightened, warning me. But I picked it up anyway. "Hello?" There was a pause. A long, cold silence. Then Olivia's voice, sweet on the surface, sharp underneath. "Hi, Mom," she said, stretching that word like she was trying on a dress that didn't fit. I didn't answer. She continued, "We'll be coming by later. We need the ranch keys." My breath caught. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. My throat closed, as if my body knew the truth before my mind accepted it. She repeated with a little impatience this time. "We need all the keys. Barn, workshop, house, everything." I managed to whisper, "For what?" "Oh," she said lightly. "We talked last night. We've decided it's best if we take over the property immediately. It's time for some new management." My heart dropped. She didn't say your son decided. She said we. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. "This ranch," I whispered, "was built by my husband. By our hands. By our sweat." She cut in, her voice turning ice cold. "And now it belongs to your son. You should be grateful he's even letting you stay on the land for a little while. But we need full access. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Children can wound you, but sometimes strangers finish the cut." "I'll talk to my son," I said, my voice trembling. She sighed. "He's busy. And honestly, this is just paperwork. It's done." Then she added something that made my blood run cold. "We already spoke to a realtor. They need to assess the property next week." The room spun. "Assess? Realtor? Next week? Are you selling the ranch?" I could barely breathe. She clicked her tongue, annoyed that I'd figured it out so fast. "Well, of course. It's worth a fortune. Why let it sit like this when it could benefit our future? Don't worry, we'll give you some time to pack." Pack! The word hit me like a hammer. This wasn't about nerves at a wedding. This wasn't about tension or misunderstanding. They were pushing me out of my home, out of my history, out of my husband's legacy, and they wanted the keys to start the process. I felt tears burning my eyes, but I refused to let them fall while she listened on the other end, waiting to hear me break. So I swallowed the pain. With the last bit of strength I had, I steadied my voice and said, "No." Silence. A stunned silence. "What did you say?" she asked. "I said no," I repeated, clearer this time. "You won't get the keys from me." There was venom in her reply. "You're being dramatic. Don't force us to take legal action. Do what you must," I whispered. "But this ranch, this land, is more than money." She laughed softly, mockingly. "Oh, you poor thing. You really don't understand how this works. Your husband didn't leave anything behind except a rundown, property, and a stubborn old woman living in it. Her mistake, her biggest mistake, was assuming what my husband left behind." I closed my eyes, remembering his last kiss on my forehead, the envelope in his trembling hands, the words he whispered. "One day they'll come for this ranch. When they do, this will protect you." Olivia didn't know. My son didn't know. No one knew, but I knew. That letter, tucked away in the cedar box under our bed, was about to change everything. I took a slow breath. "Olivia," I said quietly, "you and my son do whatever you think you must. But this ranch isn't as simple as you believe." She scoffed. "We'll see about that." And she hung up. I stared at the silent phone in my hand. My heart hurt. My hands trembled. My world felt like it was cracking apart. But for the first time since the wedding, I felt something else rising inside me. Not fear, not sorrow, fight. The real battle had begun. When Olivia hung up that morning, the house felt colder than it ever had. I stood there for a long time, holding the phone like it still carried her poison. My heart was beating too fast, too loud. The ranch around me, usually full of mourning sounds, felt like it was holding its breath, waiting to see what I would do next. My son, my own flesh and blood, wanted me out, and the woman he married wanted everything I had built, everything my husband died protecting. But they didn't know the truth. I walked slowly to the bedroom, feeling each step like I was walking through memories. The floors creaked the same way they did when my husband used to sneak in late after, working the night shift at the mill, barefoot and smiling, hoping not to wake me. In that moment, I could still feel him, still hear him. The room smelled faintly of cedar and old books. The morning sun filtered through the curtains in soft strips of gold. Dust filled the beams of light, floating like tiny ghosts from our past. My legs trembled as I knelt, beside the bed, the same bed, where we whispered our fears, our dreams, our future. The same bed where he held my hand when his body grew weak. The same bed where he slipped the envelope into my palm the night before he passed. I reached underneath, fingers brushing against the wooden box, our cedar box. The box we carved together in our first year of marriage. We used to keep baby photos, old receipts, and tiny little notes we wrote to each other. But after he got sick, he took everything out. He told me, "One day you'll need what's inside." Back then, I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to imagine a day without him. But now his voice felt like a rope pulling me back from drowning. I lifted the box onto the bed, the wood warm and familiar. My fingers hesitated on the lid. My breath shook. "All right," I whispered. "I'm here. I'm listening." When I opened it, the smell of cedar drifted up, sharp and sweet. And inside, simple, unassuming, lay the sealed white envelope. My name handwritten on it, his handwriting. I traced the letters slowly, as if touching him. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred, and the room wavered. Tears threatened. My chest ached as if someone was reaching inside, squeezing my heart in their fist. But I couldn't fall apart, not now. Not when everything depended on what was inside. I opened the envelope gently, like it was something fragile. The letter inside was creased and slightly yellowed from time. I unfolded it. "My love," it began. My lip trembled. He always called me that, even when we were angry, even when life was hard, even when he was sick and I was scared. "My love, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer standing beside you, but I am still with you. I always will be." My throat tightened so hard it hurt. He continued, "I know one day someone will try to take what we built. Land brings out greed in people. Wealth turns hearts colder. And those with ambition will see this ranch not as home, but as opportunity." A chill ran through my spine. It was as if he had seen Olivia before she ever came into our son's life. He wrote, "But this ranch does not belong to our son, and it does not belong to whomever he marries. It belongs to you." My breath caught. I read the line again. "It belongs to you." My hands shook. Tears spilled from my eyes, dropping onto the paper. He continued, "Before I died, I rewrote the will. Everything, the land, the buildings, the accounts, the equipment, the mineral rights, everything is in your name." A sob escaped my throat. Not anger, not joy. Something deeper, relief, love, pain, all tangled together. But the next part, oh God, it changed everything. I know our son has a good heart, but I also know he is easily swayed. He will trust the wrong woman long before he realizes her intentions. Protect him, my love, even when he hurts you. And protect our home. Do not give the keys. Do not sign anything. The lawyer will contact you if ever the will is questioned. My hands flew to my mouth. He knew. He knew all of it before it happened. The final paragraph broke me completely. "I am leaving you the ranch not to burden you, but because you are the only one who truly understands its worth. Not the money, not the land, but the memories, the love buried in the soil, every fence post I hammered, every board you nailed, Every sunrise we watched together. It is yours. It was always yours. By then, I was crying so hard my body shook. I pressed the letter to my chest, rocking slightly, like I was holding a piece of him, like he was holding me in return. The room felt warmer, brighter, safer, but beneath that comfort, something new began to grow. Strength. I wiped my tears slowly and folded the letter back into its envelope. My husband had left me more than a message. He had left me a shield, a weapon, a way to fight, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. I set the cedar box back under the bed, stood up, and took a deep breath. "All right," I whispered into the quiet room, speaking to him, speaking to myself. "They want a war for this ranch." My voice steadied, my heart hardened. Then they'll get one. I didn't sleep that night, not a second. I sat in the living room, the lamp casting a warm glow across the photographs on the wall. Weddings, birthdays, Christmas mornings. They watched me like silent witnesses as I held my husband's letter against my chest. Outside, the wind howled across the ranch like it was warning me, telling me a storm was coming. And it was. By sunrise, I heard the sound of a car engine crunching down the gravel driveway. My stomach tightened. I pushed myself slowly out of the chair, my bones aching, my heart beating in my throat. I stood at the window. It was them, my son and Olivia. She climbed out first, hair perfect, makeup flawless even at dawn, wearing a white blazer like she was already the lady of the estate. He followed behind her, shoulders hunched, eyes down, like a boy walking to the principal's office. Before they reached the porch, I whispered to my husband's memory, "Be with me, give me strength." Then I opened the door. Olivia didn't even say hello. She shoved a clipboard into my hands. "Margaret, we need you to sign this transfer authorization for the ranch keys." My son stood behind her, shifting uncomfortably. His eyes avoided mine. I didn't touch the clipboard. I didn't even look at it. Instead, I looked directly at my son. "Did you know she was coming here?" I asked softly. He swallowed. Yeah, Mom, we talked about it." Olivia stepped forward like a snake uncoiling. "This is the next step. You can't live out here alone. It's not safe. The land is too big for someone your age." My jaw tightened. I had lifted hay bales heavier than her, survived winters colder than her heart. But I said nothing. "Not yet," she continued, her voice sugar-coated poison. "We'll take over the operations. You'll move to a small place in town, somewhere manageable. You'll be comfortable. Comfortable." The word tasted like spoiled fruit. My son finally looked up, eyes pleading, confused, scared. "Mom, maybe it's better this way. Olivia has everything planned out. She's good with money, good with—" I cut him off with a look. He shrank. My voice was quiet, but it carried more strength than I expected. "You want the keys?" Olivia brightened smugly. "Yes, and the sooner you sign, the better." I stepped back into the house without another word. They followed, uninvited. Inside, Olivia's eyes scanned every corner, evaluating, measuring, calculating, as if adding dollar values to memories. I walked to the kitchen counter and placed the clipboard down gently. Then I pulled out the envelope. My husband's letter. I didn't show them yet. I only let my fingers rest on it. "Before I sign anything," I whispered, "I want to ask my son something." He looked up slowly, like a child afraid of what his mother is about to say. "Son," I asked softly, "why do you want this land?" He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Olivia answered for him. "We're starting a business. A ranch resort, luxury cabins, horseback tours, wine tastings. This land will make us millions." My heart sank for him. Not because he was ambitious, but because he believed every dream she sold him. I turned my eyes back to him. "Is that what you want?" I asked quietly. "Or is that what she wants?" His breath caught. His eyes shifted. His silence gave me the answer. Olivia stepped between us like she owned him. "Enough of this emotional manipulation," she snapped. "Sign the papers." She reached for the pen. That's when I unfolded the letter, slowly, deliberately. Their eyes widened. "What's that?" Olivia demanded. "My husband's last words," I said calmly. And his instructions. Her face twitched. Just for a moment. Fear? Anger? Panic? I wasn't sure. My son whispered, "Mom, what does it say?" I read it out loud. Every word. Every line. Every sentence that declared the ranch belonged to me. Legally. Fully. Undeniably. With each word, the color drained from Olivia's face. And my son, oh my boy, he looked like the world was collapsing inside his chest. When I finished, silence swallowed the room. My hands were trembling, but my voice was steady. My husband changed the will. Everything is in my name. This ranch is mine, and no one will take it from me. Olivia exploded. This is absurd. This isn't fair. He can't just... He did, I said simply, and his lawyer will confirm it. She spun toward my son. Say something. Tell her she has to hand it over. Do it. He stared at the floor, voice barely a whisper. I didn't know. Olivia grabbed him by the arm. You useless. Enough. My voice cracked through the room like a whip. She froze. My son looked up at me, tears threatening. Mom, I'm sorry. I softened, just for him. But only for a moment. Because Olivia wasn't finished. I could see it in her eyes, the fury, the desperation, the greed. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Before they left, she leaned close to me, her voice dripping venom. You think you won something today? This isn't over. I watched her walk away, dragging my son behind her. The sun was setting. The ranch was quiet, but inside me, a fire was starting. The first confrontation was over, and the real battle was just beginning. For a few days after the confrontation, the ranch felt calm. Too calm. The kind of stillness that comes before a tornado rips your world apart. I could feel it in the wind, in the creaking fences, in the way the cows grew restless at dusk. Olivia had left the ranch that day with fire in her eyes. Fire hotter than the sun on our driest Texas summer. And a woman like her, she doesn't accept defeat. She plots it. It started small. A phone call on the third night. No greeting, just breathing. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I froze where I stood, my fingers gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Hello? I whispered. More breathing. A faint click. Silence. I hung up slowly, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. The next morning, the calls doubled, then tripled. Each one the same. Breathing. Always breathing. Never words. I knew it wasn't my son. His breaths were gentle, anxious, almost apologetic. These breaths were different. Cold, patient, predatory. By the end of the week, I stopped sleeping altogether. I kept the lights on, the curtains closed, the doors locked. I was a prisoner inside my own home, the home we built with our bare hands. One night, as I sat in the kitchen clutching a mug of cold tea, something tapped against the window. Tap, tap, tap. My blood froze. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Tap, tap, tap. With shaking fingers, I turned my head just enough to see the edge of the window. A shadow moved outside, tall, still, watching. I couldn't see a face, only a silhouette against the dim porch light. Like death waiting for me to open the door. My legs wouldn't respond when I tried to stand. I felt like the air had turned to cement. When the shadow finally drifted away, I stayed in that kitchen chair until the first blue streak of dawn broke the sky. The next morning, I found something on the porch. A dead crow, laid carefully, purposefully, its wings spread, its beak open as if frozen mid-scream. My stomach twisted. People don't leave things like that by accident. It was a message, a warning. I buried the crow with trembling hands, whispering prayers to whatever angels might still be listening. By that afternoon, the threats changed. They became louder, bolder. Olivia sent an email, not to me but to my son, but he forwarded it to me without a word. In it she wrote, "If your mother doesn't sign over the ranch, we'll make her. She's old. Things happen. Accidents happen. Fires happen. People disappear." I read it 3 times, each time the words burning deeper into my chest. Accidents. Fires. Disappear. They weren't just trying to intimidate me anymore. They were planning something. I printed the email and placed it inside the cedar box with my husband's letter. The box felt heavier than ever, full of love, full of danger, full of everything that bound me to this land. That evening, I picked up the phone and called my son. He answered on the second ring. "Mom?" His voice was thin, almost afraid. "Did you read what she wrote?" I asked gently. A long pause. "Yes." "And?" Another pause. Longer. Heavier. "Mom, she's angry. She just wants what's best. She threatened my life." He inhaled sharply. "I know." The pain in his voice. God, it was unbearable. "Then why?" I whispered. "Are you still defending her?" He didn't answer. Silence wrapped around us, tight, choking, full of a truth neither of us wanted to face. When he finally spoke, his voice broke. "I'm afraid of her too." I closed my eyes as tears spilled down my cheeks. "My boy," I whispered. "My poor boy." We stayed on the phone for a long time. Neither of us spoke, but the silence felt different now, like two people, sitting on opposite sides of a glass wall, reaching toward each other but unable to touch. The next morning, he came to the ranch alone. His eyes were swollen, his shoulders slumped, his hands shook. "Mom," he said, standing on the porch like a lost child, "I need to tell you something." I stepped out onto the wooden boards, the cool air brushing my face. "You don't have to be afraid," I said softly. He swallowed. "I heard her talking last night. On the phone. To someone. She thinks the will can be overturned. And if she can't get it legally—" His voice faltered. "She's looking for another way." My heart stopped. Another way. She was planning something. And it was only a matter of time before her plan reached my door. I took his hand, squeezed it gently. "Son," I whispered, "whatever happens, I need you to remember something." He looked up, eyes full of guilt and fear. "What?" "That this ranch is not worth losing your soul. Leave her before she destroys you." His lips trembled. I can't." I nodded. I understood. Fear is a chain tighter than steel. But as he drove away, I knew something with chilling certainty. Olivia wasn't done, and the threats were only the beginning. What came next would change everything. I still remember the smell that night. Rain-soaked earth, cedar, and something else. Something sharp, something wrong. The sky had cracked open at dusk, and a wild storm tore across the ranch, lightning clawing at the horizon, thunder shaking the windows. I should have been afraid of the storm, but no. What terrified me was the silence inside my home, because storms come and go, but evil waits, patient, quiet. And that night, evil was here. I was sitting in the living room, rocking gently in my old chair, the cedar box on my lap, my husband's letter resting under my thumb. I read it over and over, like the words were a lantern in a tunnel getting darker by the minute. The threatening calls had stopped that day. No shadows at the window, no taps on the glass. But the quiet, it wasn't peace. It was the pause before something breaks. Around midnight, the electricity flickered. Once, twice, then died. The room fell into darkness so thick I felt swallowed by it. The only light came from the storm. Outside, lightning flashing like God was taking pictures of my fear. I stood slowly, my cane tapping the wooden planks as I made my way toward the drawer where I kept a flashlight. Then I heard it. A crunch. Soft, deliberate, right outside the back door. My breath caught. My fingers paused on the drawer handle. Another crunch. Closer. I told myself it was an animal. A raccoon, a stray dog, the wind. But deep down, I knew. My heart began pounding so violently, I pressed a hand to my chest to steady it. Lightning flashed again, and in that split-second burst of white light through the kitchen window, I saw a shape, a person, tall, still, facing the back door. I stumbled backward, a soft cry escaping my throat. My cane nearly slipped from my grasp. I knew that silhouette. I recognized it instantly. It was Olivia, but she wasn't alone. Another shape, bigger, broader, moved beside her. A man. My knees weakened. My breath grew shallow. I backed away from the door, one trembling step at a time. clutching the cedar box to my chest. Then, bang! The first hit on the door shook the house. Bang! The second one cracked the wood. My hands flew to my mouth, muffling the scream rising inside me. "Open it!" Olivia's voice, shrill and unhinged, sliced through the storm. Thunder rolled in the sky, but even thunder couldn't drown her fury. I stumbled toward the front of the house, trying to move quietly, trying not to collapse. Every step felt like walking through mud. My breath came in sharp, painful gasps. I made it to the hallway when the back door exploded inward. Wood splintered. Glass shattered. Their footsteps rushed in, heavy, wet from the rain, echoing against the walls. I pressed myself against the corner, tears streaming down my wrinkled cheeks. My heart hammered so loudly I feared it would give me away. Olivia's voice was ice. "Find her!" The man grunted and began searching rooms, slamming doors, overturning furniture, stomping like a beast hunting prey. In the darkness, I clutched the cedar box so tight it dug into my ribs. Lightning flashed again, and the brief illumination showed something that turned my blood cold. A gas can in Olivia's hand. My breath hitched. She wasn't here to scare me anymore. She wasn't here to threaten me. She was here to erase me. I pressed my hand over my mouth, trying to steady my breathing. But a floorboard creaked under my foot. Just one soft sound. But it was enough. "There!" Olivia hissed. Her footsteps approached, slow, deliberate, like death wearing heels. I stumbled backward into the living room, my cane slipping on the wooden floor, my body nearly collapsing. I grabbed the table for balance and forced myself toward the front door. But before I reached it, Olivia stepped into the doorway, her hair plastered to her face from the rain, her eyes wild, lips curled in a twisted smile. "You should have just signed the papers," she sneered. The man emerged behind her, cracking his knuckles. My heart pounded so violently, I tasted blood in my mouth. "I won't let you take this ranch," I whispered. She lifted the gas can and tilted her head mockingly. "Oh, Margaret," she crooned. "We're not taking anything. We're just making sure nobody else gets it." She splashed gasoline across the floor, its sharp smell cutting through the storm. The liquid soaked into the rugs, the furniture, the wood my husband and I polished for 40 years. The man flicked a lighter. A small flame danced in the air. "No!" I screamed, stumbling forward. "Please, please, don't." Olivia smiled. "That will teach you not to stand in our way." The lighter fell. The fire caught instantly, hungry flames racing across the room, devouring memories, swallowing the walls, roaring like demons finally set free. Heat slammed against my face. Smoke clawed at my throat. I stumbled backward, coughing, choking, tears streaming from my burning eyes. Olivia grabbed her accomplice's arm. "Let's go!" "It's done." They ran. They left me, inside a burning house. The wood cracked. The ceiling groaned. Flames licked up the walls like fiery hands reaching for me. My legs buckled. I dropped to the floor, crawling blindly through the smoke, clutching the cedar box to my chest, even as my lungs screamed for air. The heat seared my skin. My vision blurred. My body trembled violently. I whispered, choking, "Help." I wasn't sure who I was calling. My husband, my son, or God himself. I wasn't ready to die. I wasn't done fighting. And as fire closed in around me, as smoke wrapped its hands around my throat, I realized something. This was never about the ranch anymore. This was murder. And if I survived this night, I would make them pay. Children? Some nights stay carved into your bones forever. And the night everything went wrong became the beginning of everything finally being put right. When the truth finally came out. After the fire, after the accusations, after my own son turned his back on me, the world felt cold, so cold it stung. The sheriff's office kept me for hours that night, asking questions, taking notes, waiting for something, anything to prove I had done what Olivia had claimed. But all they found was the truth they had never expected. You see, my husband, God bless that stubborn, loyal man, had prepared for this. Inside the metal box he left me behind the letter, behind the deed, behind the will, there was one more thing, one he told me to show only when the world tried to hurt me. It was a small recorder, old, dusty, but still working, and on it, Olivia's voice, threatening me, manipulating my son, plotting every step to take the ranch, mocking me, mocking my husband's grave, boasting about how she would get every last acre, every word, every laugh, every plan, recorded. My husband had known. He'd seen through her smile long before any of us did. He had warned me in his gentle way that someday she might try to take what we built. "I'll protect you," he had written in that letter, "even after I'm gone." And children, he did. When the detectives listened to the recording, their faces changed. Pale, rigid, shocked. Suddenly I wasn't the suspect. I was the victim. And Olivia? She was the spider finally caught in her own web. The courtroom was the final battle. The case dragged on for months. Lawyers, depositions, threats, rumors in town, people whispering behind my back, unsure of what to believe. But the truth has a weight, and eventually, everyone feels it. Olivia was charged with arson, fraud, coercion, attempted property theft, and endangerment. My son testified. He sat there, hands trembling, voice cracking, realizing, too late, that he had traded his mother's love for a woman's control. I watched him avoid my eyes. I watched regret eat at him like rust. And when the recording played in the courtroom, echoing through every wooden corner, my son broke. He put his hands over his face, and he cried like the little boy I used to hold during thunderstorms. "What have I done? Mom, what have I done?" He whispered it over and over. But I didn't move. Not yet. Pain has its own timeline, and forgiveness. Forgiveness is a bridge you can only cross when the fire inside you cools. After weeks of testimony, the judge finally spoke. "Mrs. Olivia Grant, you manipulated, threatened, and attempted to destroy a woman who only loved her family. This court finds you guilty on all counts." Justice had finally come. Slow, heavy, but real. I lost the ranch, but I found myself. You would think I celebrated when I won, but children, I didn't. Because even after all that, even after the lies and the betrayal and the loneliness, the ranch, the land my husband poured, his soul into, was gone, burned, unrecognizable. I walked through the ashes one last time. The porch where I used to shell peas, gone. The doorframe my son had carved his height into each birthday, gone. My husband's favorite oak tree, where he'd rest after long days, blackened and hollow. I sank to my knees in the soot, and for the first time in months, I cried. Not for the house, not for the land, not for the loss. I cried for the years, for the memories, for the love that had lived between those walls. Some things can't be rebuilt, and some shouldn't be. And then, years later, a knock on my door. I had moved into a small cottage on the edge of town. Quiet, simple, enough for one old woman who'd already lived 2 lifetimes worth of storms. One morning, as I watered the little garden I'd grown from scratch, I heard footsteps, slow, uncertain, familiar. I turned, and there he was. My son, older, thinner, eyes filled with a lifetime of regret. He didn't speak at first. He just stood there, twisting his wedding band, the same wedding band that had begun this entire storm. Finally he whispered, "Mom, I finally understand." My heart clenched. He told me he'd divorced Olivia, that he'd gone to therapy, that he'd rebuilt his life from the ground up, and that every day, every single day, he wished he had believed me, stood by me, protected me. "Mom," he said, voice breaking, "I didn't deserve your love, but I'm begging for a second chance." I looked at him long and hard. This man, my boy, he had hurt me more deeply than anyone ever had. But he was still my son. And a mother's love, it bends, it bruises, it bleeds, but it does not break. I opened my arms. He fell into them like a child. And as I held him, feeling his tears against my shoulder, I whispered the words I had carried in my chest all those years. "That's why I never let go. Because my husband taught me something long ago. Land can be stolen, homes can burn, money can disappear, but love, real love, survives every fire. And children, that is the story I came here to tell you. Children, if you stayed with me through every twist of this story, then listen closely to these last words, because they carry the weight of a lifetime. You've walked with me through betrayal, heartbreak, loss, fire, justice, and finally forgiveness. But the truth is, this story isn't just mine. It belongs to anyone who has ever loved someone so deeply that the hurt nearly swallowed them whole. To anyone who has watched their own child turn away, not because they were unloving, but because someone else whispered louder than their heart could hear. To anyone who has stood alone against a storm they never deserved, I want you to remember something I learned the hardest way a mother can learn. Strength doesn't always look like fighting. Sometimes, strength is surviving. Sometimes, strength is simply refusing to let go of who you are. When my son told me to leave his wedding, when they asked for my ranch keys, when the house burned and the accusations rose higher than the flames themselves, I thought I had reached the edge of what a heart could take. But every night, when I sat alone in that tiny cottage, listening to the wind where my husband's voice used to be, I realized something he had taught me long before he left this earth. You are stronger than the hurt. And children, so are you. Life will give you people who love you fiercely, and it will give you people who try to break you, control you, or take what is yours. But no one, no matter how cruel their intentions, can take away your truth. The truth saved me. The truth protected my home, even when the home itself was gone. The truth pulled my son back to me after years of loss and regret, and forgiveness. Forgiveness built the bridge where the ashes used to lie. When my son returned, older and humbler, asking for a second chance, I realized something beautiful. Some endings aren't endings at all. They're beginnings wearing scars. And I want you to know, if you are carrying hurt or regret or betrayal in your own life, you are allowed to keep going. You are allowed to rebuild. You are allowed to love again. And you are allowed to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. My story ends with a mother's arms around her child. Yours might end differently, but let it end with truth, with dignity, and with a heart that refuses to stop loving, even when the world tells you to. Thank you, children, for sitting with me, listening to me, and letting an old woman's story touch your own. And remember, no matter how dark the night becomes, love, real love, always finds its way home. People will hurt you, even those you love most. Children, there is no life so gentle that it escapes betrayal. The ones closest to your heart, sometimes they are the ones who crush it the hardest. Not because they are evil, but because love makes us vulnerable, and vulnerability makes us blind. When my own child believed lies over a lifetime of love, when he shoved me out of the place where I stood with trembling joy, I learned something painful. Love does not protect us from hurt, but hurt does not erase love. You must hold space for both. 2. Your truth is your shield. Never put it down. There were days when accusations burned hotter than the flames that ate my home. Days when lies echoed louder than the memories of kindness. Days when my voice shook so badly I thought it might disappear. But truth is stubborn. It survives what people say, what people think, and what people twist. And if you hold on long enough, truth will rise, even if it has to claw through ashes to reach the light. So children, when the world tries to paint you with colors that are not yours, stand firm. You know who you are, and that knowing is your armor. 3. Strength is not loud. Strength is not perfect. When everything was taken from me, I didn't roar. I didn't fight with fists or shout into the wind. My strength was quieter. It was in waking up the next morning, in taking a breath I didn't want to take, in feeding myself when grief stole my appetite, in sitting alone in a cottage where memories whispered louder than comfort. Strength is sometimes nothing more than choosing not to collapse. Remember that, children. You do not need to be fearless to be strong. You just need to keep going. 4. Forgiveness isn't a gift for the person who hurt you. It is a gift for yourself. People misunderstand forgiveness. They think it means saying, "It's fine. It didn't matter." Or "I don't feel pain anymore." No. Forgiveness means you refuse to let bitterness take root in your soul. Because once it does, it eats everything beautiful inside you. The day my son returned, broken by regret and older in spirit, I looked into his eyes and saw the boy I raised, not the man who wounded me. And in that moment, I understood something God whispered into my heart long ago. Forgiveness does not heal the past, it heals the future. Children, forgive so you can move forward. Forgive so your heart can breathe again. 5. The past will scar you, but scars are proof that you lived. My home burned. My family fractured. My heart cracked and healed in ways I still don't fully understand. But I am here, older, wiser, softer in some places, harder in others. Your scars, emotional or physical, are not signs of weakness. They are reminders that you survived what once tried to end you. Do not hide them. Carry them with pride. 6. Love always finds its way back. Maybe not to the same place, but to the right one. My story ended with my son in my arms, tears soaking the wrinkles on my cheeks. But yours may end differently. Maybe the person who hurt you will never return. Maybe the bridge you once crossed is gone forever. Maybe you will have to build a new life from pieces instead of repairing the old one. And that's all right, because love, real love, doesn't always return as a person. Sometimes it returns as peace, as clarity, as freedom, as a sunrise after years of darkness. If love leaves through one door, be patient. It always returns, even if it has to find a new door to enter. 7. And finally, you are stronger than the hurt. My late husband whispered those words into my heart long before he died. I didn't understand them then, but now I do. Children, listen closely. Life will try to break you. People will misunderstand you. Loss will visit when you least expect it. But you, yes you, are stronger than the hurt. Not because you avoid pain, not because you never fall, but because you rise again and again, even when the rising feels impossible. So this is my final lesson to you. Hold on to your truth. Let your heart break, but do not let it harden. Forgive so you can breathe, and trust that every darkness eventually leads you home. And when that day comes, when you step out of the storm with trembling hands and hopeful eyes, you will finally understand what I learned after a lifetime of losses and miracles. Love never leaves. It simply waits for you to be ready to feel it again. Now go, children. Live boldly, love fiercely, and never forget, you are stronger than the hurt,